Hi there. So today I'm going to teach you the secret that will help you nail almost every sequence of high notes. You probably know the feeling when you have this song that you want to do and you're actually pretty good at singing it, but then the singer does something like and it goes all the way up and you're like, oh hell no, I'm not going to do that. I can't reach that high. So today I'm going to help you with that. I'm a DB Tran, I'm a vocal coach, I'm a metalhead, I'm a metal singer, I'm a CVT authorized teacher, and I'm your coach for today, nailing those high fucking notes. A common request in the studio is, I want to nail that high note that James Labrie does in Learning to Live. That's actually, I think that it's highest that he ever got to do in a studio version. And it sounds like this. So the first time I ever heard it, I was like, oh no, I can't do that for my life. He reaches an F sharp 5 and it sounds so big and such in a full voice, and no way I can do that. And then the years passed by and I got better in analyzing what I hear. And then I got to understand that he's not nailing that high note with a full voice. Actually, he's using a strategy we always hear singers do when they go up there. But before that, let's talk about the strategies you might have when trying to do this sequence. So the first thing that most people will try to do is do everything in a full voice. So it's gonna be something like, oh, oh, and then you die. Maybe you can do it in a full voice, what maybe you know as chest voice, what we call in CVT metallic voice. So maybe you can do that, but it takes so much energy, and at some point there will be this note that you actually can't do in a full voice. So maybe for me, yeah, it's higher than yours, or maybe yours is higher than mine, but somewhere along the line you'll find a song when you actually can't reach all the way with a full voice. And another thing to know, if you're taking this strategy and you can do like all the sequence while belting, then good for you, but it might sound a little bit screamy, too loud, too screamy, too out there, and not as artistic as you want it to be. So the second strategy we might hear, especially with girls, is that they'll try to do the whole thing using a head voice, what we call neutral, what you might call falsetto. Something like, oh, 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 which sounds, musical and artistic, but it lacks the power and all the vibe that you want to give for a song like this. You want it to be big, you want it to resonate, you don't want it to be like so small and hollow. You want it to have a more solid character to it. So what we're going to do to make it sound right and not to die in the process is to create a path when we start with a fuller voice, more solid notes, louder notes when we're starting, and then end up in the head voice in the falsetto. But the secret will be how we connect both of them. So maybe you've heard about mixed voice, and maybe you have another term for it. I don't use these terms. I think they're very confusing. So we're going to talk about acoustics and vowels and sounds. I'm actually going to divide it to 3 parts. The lower part would be oh, and for most of you, I guess it wouldn't be so hard to do it in a fuller voice. So let's try it. Keep a full voice, keep it like a belting sound, very loud, very clear, very out there. So, oh! So that's like the easy part for most of us, I guess. And if these notes are still hard for you, you can train them. It's not like a very high part of the voice. You can actually train them and make them work. The second part of this phrase, I think, is the hardest, actually. This is where I'm still gonna aim for a fuller voice, but I am closing it up a little bit like I'm suffering. So instead of going, oh, when the higher note is actually pretty much demanding, I would actually close it up. So you see, my face goes like all this close, and my compression changes. Instead of being like very open, I'm starting to sound more held in, held back, compressed in a way, like I am muting my sound a little bit. And I think the hardest thing about this part is, and this is maybe gonna be a mind fuck for you, keep the volume down. I'm not allowing myself to go all the way to 11 and not even all the way to 7. I'm trying to be around 6 volume wise. This is what helps the sound to stay close, to stay controlled. So if I can't control my volume and really keep it down, not too quiet but not too loud, then this might be my pitfall. And this is where most singers fail. They go for the high notes, they try to open it up, they're trying to work hard, and they end up harming themselves or just ending up in a vocal break because they can't give what the note demands, physically, mentally, all that. So I'm not gonna even deal with that. I'm not gonna try making it this full big sound all the way to 10 or 11 volume wise. I'm keeping it closed, I'm keeping it to myself. I'm thinking a bit more about the vowel as like a Michael Jackson ooh these kind of vowels that are kind of closed, kind of held back. So I'm gonna do it like the Michael Jackson way. You see how it's like a little bit closed, a little bit suffering, and you can see my face is also suffering. It really helps. It really helps to do that with the face. And this is what helps me reach the higher part without killing myself. So if you found this place where you can be more controlling your volume and your openness, so it's not that open, then good for you. Moving on to the next part. If not, we'll get back to it and I'll try to help you more along the way. So now we have the two parts. Let's combine them. One is more open and one is more closed / compressed. Oh, first part. Oh, second part. And now we are left with the third and hardest part. What you think is the hardest part, what I think is the easiest part. That are the highest notes. So now I'm gonna go for a more head voice, quality of sound, more like an opera singer but with a very big smile. And now I'm going to do that. If you can make it more squeaky like a duck, do that. That will help you. So it's like more like of an and less of a so we don't have like a round sound. It's like more direct, but it's still not full. It's not like before when we did the belting part, the full voice, the open sound. So you can actually gain so much volume there if you're doing it right, but I'm not aiming for a full sound. Again, it's not the same quality of sound. I mean, compare A to an E. They're not the same. So if I'm combining everything, now I have oh, first part. Second part. Third part. So maybe they still don't sound so much connected by now, but now you have the strategy like what to aim at on any of these parts. And then you can practice each of them separately and then create how they sound together. But remember, that was just a guideline. So maybe for my voice it's easier to switch on the sixth note to the higher parts, and for your voice it's easier to do that on your fifth or fourth notes. Then do that. So you can create a transition that sound more like oh, 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 oh. So now I switched the sound a bit earlier than I did before, but still created something that sounds more smooth as I go up in pitch. So remember, it's always the middle part that's the hardest. So you decide when you switch from full voice to a closed voice and then to the head voice. You decide. So for me, it will be easier to do something like oh, 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 oh. This would be like the easiest for me, and maybe you noted like how I switched a little bit earlier than before when I tried to make it like 3 parts to simplify it. And of course, it doesn't sound exactly like what James Labrie is doing when he's singing it. He used to have a high range with his full voice, so we can keep it up like almost until the end. But if I take like the 2 or 3 last notes and I divide them and I listen very, very closely, I would actually see how they don't sound like his first notes. They are way less fuller than the first notes. It just sounds like this because you hear the transition, you hear the energy goes up, you hear the music goes up, everything is like so big that you don't feel that he's lacking something, that his sound is actually a little bit more closed or a little bit more more in the head voice part. So this is how we can trick people to think as if we did all the thing with belting when we actually switched. So my point is that it might sound different on your voice as it sounds on my voice. I don't sound like James Labrie, but the thing is to create a smooth transition, to make it as seamless as you can. It doesn't really matter where you switch, and it doesn't mean that you have to practice to stay in full voice as high as possible. I mean, that's a different kind of training. It's nice, but take it from me, from someone that worked so hard on reaching another note in a full voice and another note in a full voice, and it just made me so frustrated. And then when I started to work on transitions, I could actually do songs that I couldn't do before, just because I learned how to make those transitions more smooth and actually fool people to think that I still stayed on the same sound when actually I switched many times in when I went up. So my advice to you would be, don't be so obsessed on reaching the high notes with a full voice, with a chest voice, with a belting. It would be so much greater use of your time to know how to switch, how to be agile with your voice, switch the sounds, make it make them work with one another, so you won't hear the bumps in the way and it would sound smooth. To sum it up, 2 important tips here. One is to lower down the volume as you go up, as we did in the middle part. It's very important. Otherwise, it would be so much harder to go up and sometimes impossible. So as I go up, I lower down my volume. So I can create this transition. And the second tip I can give you is, as you go up, lower the volume, but also make it more squeaky. So less round and more. Then your sound will continue to stay sharp and you wouldn't hear the break between the lower parts and the higher parts. So compare to So this is it for today. I hope it helps with all these high notes, high crazy notes. Those are hard for all of us, almost all of us. So just keep working and you'll get better at it. It's all a matter of training at the end of the day. Bye bye!